Look at your tax bill. Look at the national debt clock spinning out of control. You are angry. You think the politicians are incompetent. You think the system is broken. I have a hard truth for you today. The system isn't broken. It is working exactly as it was designed. The 350 trillion mountain of global debt isn't a mistake. It is a product, and you are the customer. For 300 years, a financial cage has been built around you, bar by bar. It was designed to ensure that you, the taxpayer, work your entire life not to build your own wealth, but to service the interest payments of a debt that can never be repaid. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It is documented history. Today, we are going to name names. We're going to investigate the four architects, Paterson, Rothschild, Morgan, and Volcker, who built the trap. And once you see the blueprint, you will realize you don't pay off this debt, you escape it. Let's go back to the beginning. 1694, London. King William III needs money to fight a war with France. He is broke. Enter architect number 1, William Paterson. He proposes a radical new idea. He creates the Bank of England. He lends the king £1.2 million in gold. But here's the trick. The king doesn't have to pay it back. Instead, the king just has to pay the interest forever. And to pay that interest, the king taxes the citizens. Paterson created the perpetual bond. Before this, debt was something you paid off. After Paterson, debt became a permanent income stream for the bankers. The government, the king, gets the cash up front. The bankers get a guaranteed annuity paid by your taxes forever. The national debt was born. It was never meant to be zero. It was meant to be an eternal yoke on the taxpayer. So the foundation was laid, but a king could still default. He could just say, "I'm not paying." Enter architect number 2, Nathan Rothschild. 1815. The Napoleonic Wars. Rothschild didn't just lend money, he industrialized the bond market. He created a system where British debt could be bought and sold in Vienna, Paris, and Frankfurt. He made the debt liquid. Why does this matter? Because it interconnected the banking systems of Europe. If Britain defaulted, it wouldn't just hurt Britain, it would crash the banks in Austria and France too. Rothschild created too big to fail before the term existed. He wove a web so complex that no government dared to cut the strings. The debt became sovereign. It became safer than gold because the entire international system was incentivized to keep the interest flowing. The cage was no longer local, it was global. Now jump to 1913, the US. The problem with the old system was that it was limited by gold. You could only lend as much gold as you had in the vault. The bankers wanted infinite leverage. Enter architect number 3, J.P. Morgan and the Jekyll Island Club. They created the Federal Reserve. They sold it to the public as a way to stabilize the economy. But the forensic reality is simple. They created a lender of last resort. This allowed the government to borrow not just existing money, but new money. The Fed prints cash to buy the government's bonds. This removed the ceiling on the cage. Now the debt could grow to infinity. The government could fight endless wars and fund endless programs, and the bankers would earn interest on every single printed dollar. Morgan gave the politicians a credit card with no limit, and he gave the taxpayer the bill. We have the debt, Paterson, the web, Rothschild, and the printer, Morgan. But what happens when a country really goes broke? Enter architect number 4, the IMF, typified by the Volcker-era policies of the 1980s. During the Latin American debt crisis, countries like Mexico couldn't pay the interest. Did the banks take a loss? No. The IMF stepped in with a bailout. But the bailout wasn't a gift, it was a foreclosure. They instituted structural adjustment. To get the money to pay the interest, countries were forced to sell their assets. They privatized their water, their electricity, their oil. They sold their sovereignty to pay the bankers. This is the final lock on the cage. The debt is the weapon used to strip a nation of its wealth. You don't conquer a country with tanks anymore. You conquer it with bonds. So, here we are. A system designed to extract perpetual interest from your labor. You cannot vote your way out of this. The debt is too big. So what is the playbook? 1. Identify the counterparty. All inside money, fiat bonds, is someone else's liability. It exists inside the cage. If the system cracks, these assets freeze. 2. Hold outside money. You need assets that are not an entry on a banker's ledger. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, land. These are assets that have no counterparty risk. They exist outside the debt web. When the system eventually resets, and it will, wealth will transfer from those holding the debt, bonds, cash, to those holding the collateral, gold, resources. 3. Become the bank. If you have debt, you are the employee of the system. If you own assets, you are the owner. Pay off your consumer debt. Stop paying interest to the architects. Start collecting appreciation from the physical world. The cage is made of paper. The key is made of metal. Choose wisely. Paterson, Rothschild, Morgan, Volcker, they were brilliant men. They built a machine that has run for 300 years. But every machine has a breaking point. The debt is now mathematically impossible to repay. The architects are counting on you to stay in the cage until the roof collapses. Don't be there when it happens. This is the smart money wisdoms. The future belongs to the owners.